far are you going?
About 30 years.
In this week's episode, we talk about Evangelion with special guest Aaron Clark. So we're recording, we're good, right?
Yeah.
Alright, I guess I'll do an introduction to make this somewhat semi-professional. Welcome to second part of Gainax month. I guess we'll start this out with our Evangelion review. We have Aaron Clark on, who is known as the Ava Monkey from that website, Ava Monkey. And it's pretty much a huge, your site looks pretty big with all the information you have on it, and you have a dedicated forum and list of podcasts and stuff that like everyone does reviews on and everything. So you seem to be a pretty hip guy.
I never claimed to be that, but you're confusing a little bit. Ava Monkey originally was kind of like both kind of a resource site and kind of like a community site, but at some point I kind of just did not have the time to maintain the community side of things. So what I did is we pulled the forum out and combined it with another project and created another site, which is avageeks.org. And that's where, the bulk of all the Ava nerdery happens as far as like the English-speaking portion of the fandom. Ava Monkey is more or less kind of like my vanity publishing for like nerdy Ava fandom shit that I find cool or interesting. A lot of the news, like I do some of the hard news like on my blog, on my site, but a lot of that is over on Ava Geeks. So that's kind of like the place you want to go if like you just can't get enough Ava in your life. But like if you just want to see like cool fandom stuff, that's kind of what I have on my site.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that you had like a thing on like you collecting the first 2 Laserdiscs that ADV released of Evangelion, which I thought was really awesome since I have a Laserdisc player and a few anime Laserdisc.
Oh yeah, I collect a lot of Ava stuff, and I ended up at one point getting a catalog, an ADV catalog from the mid 90s. From when they were in the middle of releasing Ava on VHS, and I noticed in there that they had listed Laserdiscs for Ava, and I was like, what? Because I'm very fascinated by like all the different iterations of the show, and like I have like all the different video releases of it so far for the most part. I think I'm missing one of the platinum releases. But I was like, oh, there's Laserdiscs out there. I should try to track those down. So I've got the first one still factory sealed, and I'm looking for the second one. I am never going to watch them. I just think it's cool to have.
Are these things like expensive? Hard to find, or
Um, I think I paid like 30 to 40 bucks for the first Laserdisc, which I think is pretty good for something that's like really, really obscure and still brand new after
Yeah. I mean,
um
like, I mean, it's a domestic copy, first of all. And if it's sealed, and not many of them exist, $30 for something like that, 30 to 40, I think you did pretty good because on eBay, people are going to eat that alive.
yeah, I got that outside of eBay. It was on like one of those specialty Laserdisc websites with really terrible design.
Oh, web design? I think I've seen a few of those.
Yeah, and it needs to be said. I'm a web developer by a profession, so I kind of cringe when I see those things.
Well, I mean, out of that disgusting view of a website, you got something gold out of it. So, I mean, I guess it's not too bad if you look at it in hindsight.
I think it's hilarious to find websites that still look like they're 2000 vintage GeoCities websites.
Oh, yeah. Not many of those exist these days. But, so yeah, I guess for a podcast, I guess you're kind of our consultant for being an Ava fan. And again, we thank you for having that Tiffany Grant episode posted up on your site. Even though we're not with that podcast anymore. So, um,
You guys need to pick something and stick with it.
yeah,
that's
I
what we're
don't
trying
know.
to do with this one.
See, that's how you get nerd cred. You just don't give up.
Well, technically, we don't give up. We just kind of changed the name. Like, I think if we
Constantly.
gave up, we wouldn't be podcasting. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think I'm. Which actually reminds me, I need to do something special because 2 weeks from today is when I launched avamonkey.com 10 years ago.
Oh, snap.
I
Wow.
know, seriously, getting old.
Yeah, you're design stuff, and then 10 years later, like, where did all the time go?
Well, I'll tell you something. The ironic thing is that I got a job out of it.
Oh, nice.
Which, being someone who screwed up really bad in college and took a decade to graduate, it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, I'm back in the whole school thing again. I worked a crappy job and swore would never try to work at a place like that. And I figured a degree is going to help me out greatly with that. So it'll get me somewhere I need to go. Um, but yeah, um, so anyways, Evangelion, probably looking at it through today's fan base is people will look at it, I guess, as a series people would have to watch regardless. If they're becoming an anime fan, they're like, you have to check out this series. Whereas, 10 years ago, it was like the greatest series anyone has ever seen. And it's funny how that viewpoint has changed from like, everyone thinking it's so good to now it's just like, oh, it's got these issues in it and you have to see it because it's just what anime fans like so much. And I mean, that I guess, I mean, that's just the way I look at it. And it's kind of sort of sad because, I mean, yeah, Ava has its issues, several of them, but it is not a bad show at all.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. It 10 years ago it was like the best anime ever. That was that might in some small part be because ADV Films put stickers on the side of the box sets that said the greatest anime series of all time.
Thank you, Greenfield.
Fact.
It's in text. It's got to be a fact. I
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
who's going to argue that?
It's on the set. That's legit at that point.
It's
That
on the
is law.
$250 DVD set that you're paying for. I mean, it's got to be true. I mean, we wrote it.
So yeah. I mean, it's at the very least it's requisite viewing. But like one of the things that I always stress is that I personally think that Ava is a very divisive show. You know, and one of the things that I learned, and I think a lot of other people learn when they go through arts education is that art, and I guess there's a degree of imperfection when creating good art. And I think the fact that Ava is not a neatly wrapped up show with, perfect visuals and, a perfect satisfying conclusion, that it is enduring to this point. But I was actually just talking about this the other day. There are three things. There are three things that Japan is in no short supply of. One is trains, another is vending machines, and the third is Evangelion.
I thought you were going to add Moe or something.
No. One of my friends who's in Japan right now he does a comic called Mistakes of Youth, and one of the things he says about living in Japan and going to Japan to live in Japan or just visiting Japan is as soon as you get off the plane, you'll notice that Evangelion is everywhere. It's like you are assaulted by it. I mean, there's an Evangelion racing team. There's an Evangelion, I don't know, horse racing cross promotion. There's an Evangelion Chic Razor cross promotion campaign. It's just everywhere. It's absurd.
When I was in Japan 5 years ago on vacation, there was just walking by, there was this store that had Rei and Asuka blow up dolls just in the window, and it's just you see stuff like that all the time when you're there. It's everywhere.
When you're familiar with the chain Lawson?
No, sorry. It's
kind of like a CVS or a Rite Aid, but in Japan. And one of the stores, I might be mistaking a few details, but the way I understand it is there was a Lawson, which is like a CVS or a Rite Aid, that licensed or had some kind of deal where they basically filled the store's inventory with nothing but Ava-related stuff, like Ava coffee, Ava Doritos, Ava everything, Ava headphones. It was like an Evangelion-themed convenience store when they were done with it. And if I'm not mistaken, it was only open for 2 weeks before it had to be shut down, and the reason for it being overwhelming enthusiasm.
Can you describe that a little bit?
As in, too many people were going to the store. I don't know.
So they shut it down because they made so much damn money,
or they just couldn't control the number of people that were coming into their store.
I guess it might be kind of a problem. If there's a mob of people in there, people can just steal stuff or something.
Have you ever been to a convenience store in a city on New Year's Eve?
Probably not. I'm not sure, but I don't.
Not in a city, but
at a certain point, they won't let you in. And I really wanted ice cream. No, true story. I actually tried to stop and get ice cream for New Year's Eve on my way to my office because it overlooks the harbor, and they basically locked down the store because they were having problems with mobs of people. Although that's probably what I get for living in Baltimore. So yes, Ava is everywhere in Japan, and they actually wait. One more thing.
Yeah, no, go ahead. That's cool.
There is a theme park in Japan, a large theme park at the base of Mount Fuji called Fuji-Q Highland, and there is an entire section of Fuji-Q Highland which is basically kind of roped off and converted into an Evangelion mini theme park, including a 1-to-1 scale bust, as in inside of a hangar bay of Avian 1 that periodically lights up and moves and emits smoke from its jaw and so forth. And they have a second one, which is a battle-damaged Avian 2 from Rebuild of Ava 2.
Wow. When did this open?
Yeah. A couple years ago. It should still be there.
When I was there, I had meant to go to the Gundam ride, but I didn't get around to it, unfortunately, and I think now that's closed. But at least there's still there's an Ava ride.
So is the Evangelion on top of Mount Fuji like a homage to that episode Magma Diver, where they go to
Oh.
find the angel in the volcano?
Oh my god, I hate that episode. It's like most people think that the episode with Jet alone is like the worst episode of the show. No. Magma Diver is the worst episode of the show by far.
You and Garrett from Mega 64 are both in agreeing to that because they had an episode, like their podcast, where one of the
Garrett
people
Fedor?
on there, Garrett, the guy with
Garrett.
the dreads.
Oh, Garrett.
Yeah.
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
yeah. Like
oh, yes.
they had the episode where like someone asked him Evangelion questions and Sean just sat there quietly
Yes.
for 5 minutes and he just
Yes.
flipped out at the end.
Yes. Sean epic rage quits that podcast. Oh, I love that. I have a panel that I do every so often called Evangelion What the Fuck? And it's just basically a compendium of ridiculous, stupid bullshit that I find along those lines.
I think I got that podcast somewhere in my computer that I kept because I was listening to it like on my drive or on the way to Animazement one year, and he just started flipping out, and I'm like, "This is amazing."
I know. He just epic rage quits.
I think it's
Like
still
that-
on YouTube or something.
That is the reason why you do not force your friends to watch Evangelion.
Yeah, it's again like when I say part in the whole fandom and everything, because some people can really get into it, and others it just does not appeal to them. But then they're like they feel obligated to watch it, and then those are the ones that are like, "Well, this show is just freaking terrible. I don't know why people like it."
The people who constantly talk about how much they hate Shinji.
Yeah, even though Shinji was never made to be a character to be liked to begin with. But in some ways, people can empathize with Shinji's character because they're just as whiny and have all these problems just like Shinji.
Yeah, I think if you were in a situation like that, I mean, most people would not react very well, you know? A lot of people think, like, oh, I'd be the greatest giant robot pilot and I would kick ass and I wouldn't complain
Yeah,
about a bit of
that's
it.
what I think, too. I don't know why he didn't think like that, but, I mean, that's just Shinji, so...
Yeah. Not everybody's like that.
I know. Josh, you want to add something?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. You just unmuted your mic, and I didn't know if you
No,
had...
I'm mainly doing that so there's some background noise, so when this eventually airs on Toon Radio, we won't get cut out.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Good call. But, I guess we haven't really said what is Evangelion for people who don't know what it is or who it is, for those people living under a rock that just happened to find this episode of the podcast.
I think anybody that likes anime and listens to anime podcasts is probably familiar with the show.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't...
Just going on a limb there.
Yeah, I know, I see your viewpoint.
I know. I know.
But, you know, not to throw all my cards at the table at that train of thought. I mean, just to be on the safe side, you know, Evangelion was a show made 1995 by probably the greatest anime director of all time, Hideki Anno. Now, and I say greatest kind of loosely, but he's done some really good stuff too, like pre-Evangelion. Like, I love Gunbuster.
Oh, yes.
We talked about that in our other podcast, which will actually be out tomorrow. Which I got like very brief editing to work on it, and I laugh at the concept of editing because I just have to add something to it, and it's fine.
I hope you don't have to edit that tomorrow on your birthday.
Oh yeah, that'd be working on my birthday.
Yeah, that won't do.
I'm not worried about it. I'll do it tonight or whenever. But no. So I mean, it's basically like Evangelion, and you look at it, and it's about, you know, robots fighting aliens to try to destroy the Earth, monsters destroying the Earth, which is kind of a callback to the Monster of the Week, you know, tokusatsu shows from the 60s that, you know, Anno liked. I guess it's really, people have claimed it to be like cannibalistic Ultraman. From what a few people said, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's some. Well, I mean, first of all, like, one of the other panels I do is Evangelion Deconstructed, which kind of like breaks about all the little references and homages and so forth. And Ultraman is definitely one that needs to be taken note of, is because I mean, uh, like the Avas, Ultraman also has a 3 minute, uh, time that he can.
Energy. Yeah.
Although in his case, it's because he can only survive for 3 minutes within the Earth's atmosphere. Um, Also, there's like that core, motif that he has on his chest, just like the Avas have.
Okay.
Lots of There's some other little things. I think there's like some designs of Ultraman that look kind of similar to the Avas.
The other big thing I see cited a lot as a predecessor is Ideon by Tomino. A lot of people think that's kind of a proto-Evangelion kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of the plot elements have are kind of recycled from Mobile Suit Gundam and also Ideon. But that show keeps eluding me. Like I need to get around to watching it really bad. It's like so loosely known, and like fan subs are kind of hard to track down of it.
Oh, I downloaded the whole thing a few years ago, but I still have to watch it.
I got the movies off of Baka BT like a month ago or so that I can watch, and then eventually we have a plan to do like a Tomino versus Takahashi theme month or thing we're going to do for a while, where we talk about like one show from each director. And boy, it'll be fun once we get to Garzy's wing.
Oh yeah.
Oh
definitely.
no! You don't need to do that.
We gotta, man. It's obligated. Other podcasters have done it. We gotta get on that ship.
If you're gonna watch some terrible anime, I can make a suggestion.
Mysterious Girlfriend X.
Black
already-
Lion.
What?
Black Lion.
I've heard. Oh wait, the Go Nagai thing.
Oh yes,
Dude, that thing's awesome. I own it on VHS, proudly, if I may add.
that was the first. That was the first anime tape I ever owned.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that you hate it.
Oh, no, it's amazing. It's so amazingly terrible.
That's how I feel with like Crystal Triangle. But Crystal Triangle for me has elements in it that I can't fully hate the show on because it's the least entertaining. Like all of it, no matter how ridiculously stupid it is. If you've seen Crystal Triangle.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh boy. I'm not going to ruin it. I just know that I showed the ending to it because I do my own panels at like the local cons in South Carolina. And I showed it at a round con, which is a smaller one, and I showed the ending to it, and this girl's jaw literally dropped at how stupid it was, and I just started laughing at her. This is a group of like 20 people in a conference room, but they walked out of there knowing the anime they watch have nothing against what I like.
So I take it you're probably a really big fan of the Anime World Order guys.
More or less. Yeah, it's regarding Anime World Order. They were the first podcast that I started listening to, and then I think I messaged something to Daryl, and like I think I might have ticked him off or something. But I think anything ticks him off. And
Daryl is complex.
So, well, I guess you work at Otakon or something since you're in Baltimore.
Shh.
I mean, again, I could be wrong.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I just know that's where those guys in Fast Karate meet up, and they do like, oh, we watched this anime, and we're going to span it out over like 20 years, a.k.a. Crying Freeman.
There's another thing that I know of by name, but really know nothing about.
You got to watch Crying Freeman. Discotheque has had it out for a couple of years, so it can't
Is
be
that
that
one of those shows that's kind of like meant for men? It's like manly anime.
I'll say this much: Crying Freeman is an anime that you will want to like feel sad watching a pair of nude breasts on it. Like, that's all I can really say. That's just the way I look at it. It's like it's okay if you're a man to cry at Crying Freeman because he is a man that cries as he assassinates and decapitates like 80 million Yakuza dudes.
Epic tears of manliness. then.
Yeah, he has a reason to cry because he's not free. But I can't spoil it for you, man. You just got to go watch it.
We'll just leave it at that because I think we're drifting.
Yeah, we do this a lot, so it's okay.
Drifting's
I
our
know
specialty.
podcasts, kind of goes with the territory, but
Yeah.
focus.
But yeah, with Evangelion, back to talking about the Evas, they're, mechs, organic mechs, or mecha, so to speak. That there's 3 of them for each different pilot, and each pilot has a different personality. I got to do my interview with Asuka, who's the hot-blooded redhead, and I interviewed Tiffany Grant, which she doesn't. She just talks. That's just her normal voice, I think. I mean, it really was when I spoke to her and everything. And when I went to her panel at BonsaiCon, like, I couldn't help but to crack up at a few of her, like, the way she said things. And I'm just like, I keep picturing Asuka's face on her. And I'm just kind of sitting there just laughing. And then she's looking at me like, what's that guy laughing at?
Tiffany Grant is in some ways like a version of Asuka in real life with no filter.
Yeah.
If there were such a thing, because she'll just refer to Rey as bitch or something like that, or talk about how she'll go into the video stores and turn the boxes around so Rey is facing away from the customer and Asuka is facing out. I mean,
I did not know this.
I think I have a fairly intimidating collection of Ava stuff, and it's too big to inventory, and I gave up because I just kind of get tired of doing it halfway through.
Yeah.
But she's got a room, I've got one of those typical those Billy bookcases from IKEA that are 3 feet wide by 6 feet tall. Just completely full of there's nothing but Ava stuff.
Just shoving in Asuka figures.
She's got a room, and it's only Asuka stuff.
I think she told me in the interview
and one Shinji plushie.
Yeah, I think she told me that she had to put some of those things in storage. I don't know how much of that statement is true, but I don't know. But
as a game collector, yeah, I have stuff in storage too. So.
I got some stuff in a box in my closet, so. But, well, to relate it to Evangelion with video games, they did make Evangelion video games, so we kind of are on topic.
Yeah, that was an interesting point where I'm really into Ava, and I'm really into movies, and I'm really into games, and the last I've been kind of haven't been terribly active with the Ava fandom for the last couple of years, but I've been spending that time instead collecting old games. And one of the things I made a point to was to collect all of the Sega Saturn games that had bits of Ava in them.
And boy,
there's not that many of them. I actually got them sitting right next to me. There's
I have
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, and none of them are playable.
Okay, I've got the first one and second impression. Second impression is more playable than the first one by a long shot, but I can only get 10 minutes in the second one.
Yeah, but they're just still visual novels, right? I mean,
yeah.
See what I got here. I got first impression, second impression, Girlfriend Steel, digital card library, something with Gunbuster and Nadia included. The Yoshiyuki Sadamoto's illustration, which is kind of like a Sega Saturn version of Dermon, the art book, which is weird.
Oh.
And then those 2 Super Robot Wars games. I think those probably would be playable, but, they're RPGs and they're Japanese, so I have no idea how to play them.
There's translated fan pages on how to do, buttons and stuff. You don't need this story, even though role-playing games require all the story. I don't know. It's kind of one of those like I want to see Ava fight a Gundam. I guess Robot Wars is the only game I can play to get that fantasy fulfilled, regardless of whatever the story is or the circumstances of why I'm fighting a Gundam. But who cares? I just want to see it.
It doesn't matter. I mean, who
Yeah,
cares why Pikachu and Donkey Kong got a fight? You know, Smash Brothers, done.
yeah. There wasn't like a backstory to it.
It's not important. Just want
Yeah.
to beat on Pikachu. Kirby drop.
Yep. All right. I guess back to Evangelion again. um, I guess I mean, really like regarding my interpretation, or I guess we can talk about the characters a little bit. Obviously Shinji's the main one, which he has, a lot of mental issues. And really, the mental issues regarding his, to his father who's abandoned him. So he's got, mental and emotional baggage, and it doesn't help that he's piloting the Avas, or the Ava Unit 1 against his, pretty much sort of his own will. And because he's only doing it out of obligation to be accepted by others. And regarding Shinji's character, like, I think, like, again, like when I first saw the series, like I borrowed a bunch of tapes from a friend of mine in high school because I heard about the series. And then I met someone at this other school I went to sophomore year, and he's like, yeah, I'll let you borrow the VHS tapes. And it was between like sub and dub, so it was like whatever he had. And I didn't really find the character Shinji annoying, but it was one of those like, I can really empathize with him because like, around that age group, it seems like the anime appeals to people around that age group, around his age, who are like trying to figure themselves out. It's that whole growing up thing. And, really it's just like, life isn't fair, and they're realizing that and everything. And, I think a lot of people got it, like the show because of that. But then also, like, I had a buddy of mine say to me about when I asked him about Evangelion, he goes, if you look at it as a mech show, it's not a very good one. I mean, don't look at it as a mech show to kind of satisfy that mech fantasy to see other mechs fighting, because that's not what the show's about. And that is true.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of the things that I remember Daryl Surratt saying was that it kind of ruined mecha anime for years, and I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see it. That's actually like something that I would want to read about in more detail, because like in the wake of Ava, you had shows like Gasaraki, you had Nadesco,
Razafon,
Dual Parallel Travel Adventure. You had a whole bunch of shows trying to be, Ava, and some of them were pretty terrible. And that's something that I would want to read about how mecha anime was influenced by Ava for better and for worse. Like, I find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are some Ava influenced shows. Like, I actually liked Razafon. I thought it was pretty good, but it's pretty confusing in the way that Ava is. And, a lot of those shows are pretty low quality. Like, even Pilot Candidate is kind of a Ava ripoff in some ways, and that's pretty bad.
I've told you that I think I watched the first episode of Pilot Candidate when it was on Adult Swim, 10 plus years ago. And like, I only saw the first episode and I hated it so much because it made zero sense. And I'm like, this has got to be the worst show I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's one of the worst anime Adult Swim has aired.
Yeah, I remember seeing like the way that the 2D and 3D animation synced up was kind of like awkward in like a sort of what was that Fox animation movie? Titan AE?
Oh,
I think everybody criticized Titan AE for being awkward in its combination of the 2D and 3D animation, but I think Paddle Cannon was much worse than that.
Yeah, it didn't mesh well at all.
But as far as like characters being annoying, like, I honestly I want to do a poll. Like, I want to do a fairly wide poll of the fandom and see like if there's a greater likelihood of or greater portion of people between sub and dub that view the characters as being more annoying, because my thinking is that the dub comes off as much more annoying than the characters in the original Japanese performance. You know, like I don't really find the characters annoying in English personally, but I can see how they could be. But like the characters in the original Japanese, like I don't see how they could be annoying at all.
I guess with me, like it's like I watched the show. I mean, granted, I saw the show sub, but I enjoy it dubbed so much. Like when I look at it, like I can only hear the English voice acting in my head. Like for Ritsuko, I love Suelu as a voice actress, even though she doesn't really do it anymore. And you know, I can only see Ritsuko as Suelu's voice, and it just sticks with me and has since I've seen that show. I mean, granted, the new voice actress who's doing Ritsuko, you know, sounds great, but it's just not the same. It's not the one I know.
Yeah,
And,
I think the new one is actually a lot closer in terms of sound and intonation. Like
yeah,
some of Suelu's performances in the original show like can kind of like come off as being evil or mean spirited, whereas like in the Japanese it doesn't come off that way. And the new voice actress kind of has a much closer match to that in the new movies.
okay. I'm actually a Ritsuko fanboy, even though there's not too many.
They're
of them
not.
out there.
There are like you're like the only other one that I know of. The first being Carl Horn, the editor who's been an editor for Ava Manga for many years.
Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, he was the editor for the main Evangelion manga for a number of years, and he does a lot of the manga work over at Dark Horse Comics now. So he's involved with Akari Shinji Racing Project, as well as he was involved with Campus Apocalypse to a little degree, but he wasn't like the editor for it.
So me and Carl Horn share the same interest in short-hair, blonde, nerdy physics science girls. I take it.
Yeah, like there's really like, which is so ironic because if you like look into like Sadamoto's design work and like his motivations and his ideas for the characters, he always intended for Ritsuko to be the sexy character, which is why, you know, she wears like the black tights, she wears the black mini skirt,
silk stockings, white lab coat,
and the top with the zip down the front with the humongous pull tab.
I had always thought that was
the first time you see her, she's like taking off a wetsuit.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think that they probably didn't intend for people to be way more into Rei and Asuka than Misato and Ritsuko, but that's kind of how it turned out because Japan is like that, and I guess anime fans in the US are too, but
yeah, they've gotten that way.
Kind of a shame, but oh well.
Because like in high school, like I was like, you know, I told my friends like, yeah, I mean, I like Ritsuko a lot, and they're like, dude, what's wrong with you, Misato, man? Dude, she's got like a gun and like tits are everywhere. She lives with Shinji, man. Like you don't see that from Ritsuko. What's wrong with you, man? And they're looking up like the America's like top 50 hot anime girl list or something of the year, and they're like, yeah, man, I could see like Misato being number 3 on that list or number 2. And then they would talk about it for 30 minutes or something, and I'm like, there's no Ritsuko. She's like number 30 maybe.
Why would she even be on the poll at that point?
I think it was like a poll. It might have been in America that they did it like, this was like 10 years ago or something. And I'm pretty sure she was like, they had a poll for like, you know, hottest anime girl around that time. And I think Ritsuko was on it, but she was like in the 40s or something, close to 50. And I'm like, I think she should be up there higher. And they're like, dude, what's wrong with you? And they're like, Misato number 2 or number 3 or something. Like, yeah, that's where she belongs. And then right above her was Oscar or something. But I don't know.
That must have been the in the wake of End of Eva coming out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was like 2002, 3 when I saw this or knew these guys in high school. So I think, yeah, End of Eva came out on DVD, I think, about that time.
Yeah, it was like late summer 2002.
Okay.
Which is when I started building my site in the very very first place. Part of how I remember it. God, so old.
I guess we're supposed to be talking about characters, but that's really. I mean, I guess if people who haven't seen this show, they'll figure it out. But like, Asuka's thing is, that she's got, obviously these kids are all screwed up or whatever for different reasons, and Asuka's is like she's very prideful and boastful about herself to, of course, hide the fact that she has a mom that committed suicide and a bunch of other issues. And pretty much like that messes her up when Shinji becomes a better pilot than her, and then she just kind of goes insane. And then obviously with the end of Eva, they're the last two people alive, and I'm like, great, humanity is screwed.
And they don't even let you in on that for like until like almost the very end of the series, and at that point you've already kind of given your verdict on her character.
Yeah. And then of course Rei is the image of Shinji's mother through the eyes of Gendo. And then of course, but there's clones of her that pilot the dummy system, or not. That wasn't I guess it was sort of. All right, we're getting into. That's the whole logic of Evangelion, because like I watch the show and I like it, and then I kind of forget a lot of things, and I go back and rewatch it, and then I'm like, I remember this now. Like it's all refreshing to me to go back and see it every once in a while.
Yeah, I rewatched the show for the first time in a few years in 2012, and before I had seen the subbed version, and I watched the dub version, and it's like the episode with the what's the it's like Jaguar, but he's
that's Jet Alone.
Yes, I had like totally forgotten about that episode because it has like almost nothing to do with the plot. And so it's kind of just like rediscovering the show to watch it after a few years. But
raising hand here, what was Jet Alone about?
like, what was the point? I don't know.
Yeah, what was the episode? Like, what was in it?
Well, Misato has to like go into this rampaging robot and stop it.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of touched on like Nerve's place in the world and how they're viewed by other organizations, and also the question as to why nobody else has built a giant fucking robot.
Yeah, they're kind of monopolizing the giant robot stitch by 2015 because that was all orchestrated by Nerve or by Gendo, or at least
to
it was.
Fair,
really
we don't have. It's 2013 and we don't have giant robots yet. So
well, the world didn't end, so there's no.
We also don't have hoverboards, flying cars, and
double ties,
jetpacks,
or dehydrated pizzas that can be hydrated in like 10 seconds.
Yeah. Self-lacing shoes.
Oh, no! Actually, we have those.
Yeah,
they did make those.
Oh,
they're not as cool as the
right.
shoes in the movie, but they do actually have those somewhere.
There's no Jaws 27 yet either.
Well, I don't know.
The only thing
Sci-Fi will probably churn out the other, like 20 in the next.
Yeah, we discussed this already, kind of. But no, like we're getting Star Wars Episode 7 by Disney and Lucasfilm, which I know that whole like Lucas signing on with Disney. They just love Back to the Future too, and they're like, we got to make this happen. That's what it really is.
Truth is stranger than fiction, I guess.
Yep. The evidence is there. Okay. I guess what the big question is, like, and this has been interpreted by a lot of fans, and I don't know if, like, you have your own interpretation, but how do you make sense of end of Evangelion, or how the series ended to you?
Oh,
that's a big one.
It is.
Well, God, that movie is so vague and hard to explain. Like, okay, what's happening now? What's happening now? What's happening now? Like, I kind of know what's happening, but like, if somebody asks me like, what does that thing mean? I'm like, science.
Let me ask you this: did End of Evangelion ruin your weekend when you first saw it?
No.
It didn't. Okay.
I knew where I was. I was at Katsucon 2002, and I saw that for the first time. And I also saw Vampire D Bloodlust for the first time. And I remember actually liking Bloodlust more than End of Eva, even though it was like a big thing to finally get to see End of Eva.
Yeah.
And the great thing about watching that was because they showed Death and Rebirth, and then they showed End of Eva, so we got to see the hospital room scene twice. So by the time we got to the second showing of that, people had their heckling lined up. But seriously though, the important thing that I take away from End of Eva is that like the whole point of the Instrumentality project was that like mankind's days were numbered, that we're like at an evolutionary dead end, we're doomed to be fundamentally flawed and incomplete, and to not be able to understand each other, and yada yada yada, and also probably the very good possibility that the resources are finite, and like the imperative of us escaping this planet before we consume all the resources and be able to and be unable to survive on this planet is also very, very real. And instrumentality is supposed to basically create this kind of hive mind where like you kind of don't exist but you kind of do. But what happens by the end of the movie is like a sense of legacy has been achieved, where Unit 1 and the Lance and that human soul go into space, and like they say, it'll be eternal proof that humanity ever existed. And what is the term? It's like cosmotic panspermia is like the scientific theory about how life on different planets can be seeded throughout the universe by different bodies like comets and meteors and stuff like that. Where like bacteria and stuff that are trapped in comets and so forth can like crash on another planet and like be released from dormancy and seed life onto that planet. And that's basically what happens in Evangelion, where the seeds of the alien civilization, the precursor civilization, crash land on Earth, and one seeds human life on the planet, and the other seeds the angels on the planet. And Unit 1 with the Lance is kind of very similar to that. It's kind of like an arc for that human soul and the proof that humanity ever existed, and they achieved it, but in like kind of a roundabout way that they weren't expecting. So I always think that legacy is kind of an important thing to have. You should have proof that you existed, and that's kind of what they achieved by the end of the movie.
Okay, so
that's my big thought for the evening.
It's a lot to take in. I'm glad the Eva manga is almost done, because it's,
oh my god, yes.
It's starting to retell the end of Evangelion part where
so close. Oh my god. I think we're down to like one volume now.
Yeah, just one more to come.
I'm waiting for that movie to end for like 10 years.
The theory about the life coming from outer space on a meteorite, it's like an actual real scientific theory, I guess, for like how life came to Earth. Because when I was in high school, at the science fair, the guy next to me had like a big theory about how he had discovered the origin of human life was space bacteria, and that I mean, I don't know how much you should trust someone like that, but I just think it's an interesting idea, kind of high concept for an anime,
There's a lot of very interesting stuff like that. I mean, there's just tons and tons of little nuggets of scientific theory, religious theory, psychological theory, just strewn all over the show. It's not, I wouldn't say it's intricate so much as it is multifaceted. There's just so much stuff floating around. Like even the Shadow Angel, the one that's a big sphere that has like the zebra stripes all over it.
Oh yeah.
That's like something that comes from like 1960s mod fashion.
I was trying to think of. Someone had explained the. I think I asked someone their explanation of what they thought of the end of Evangelion movie, and like it's one of these things where like I hear how people interpret the ending and like what the show means, but after a while it just kind of it's like it sticks to a wall for only so long, and then I start forgetting it because it just doesn't really hold on, or the value doesn't hold on for very long, at least for me. I think someone explained to me like where what caused the movie to happen like that was like Shinji, like Rei fuses with Lilith, which I'm not even sure what the meaning was behind with that, but he apparently like wished he was alone or the only person left on the earth, and then Rei interpreted as like, oh okay, she took it literally, and then reverted people, didn't really kill them, but reverted them to a state of like they're to cells basically with the LCL liquid and everything. And that's my laptop. Okay, good. And then of course he's like, no, Ray, you took that the wrong way. And then it just kind of happened where she just disintegrates, and then it's just him and Asuka left. And I'm not even sure if what I just said made any kind of sense.
I was actually looking something up, but while we're on the subject of like interpretation, I have a few quotations that might be of interest.
Okay.
Particularly these are coming from Hideaki Anno, who is not the sole creator of the show, but is kind of like credited as being like the principal moving force of the show and its creative ideas. But some of the things that he said, back in the day, were. Or I tried to include everything of myself in Neon Genesis Evangelion, myself, a broken man who could do nothing for 4 years, which is kind of his main motivation for creating the show. Mm-hmm. He also said after the show is finished, he said, Evangelion is like a puzzle, Any person can see it and give her own answer. In other words, we're offering viewers to think by themselves so that each person can imagine his or her own world. And
I was just going to add something to that. Like, that's what I kind of liked about the show, at least for a long time. And I think I still kind of do now, where it's like, it's a show that doesn't have a solid interpretation or ending, but it's something that you would have to add on regarding like the TV show, like pissed people off, obviously. But like, for me, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of cool. It's up to my own interpretation of how I want to interpret that. And, some people like it for that. And other people are like, I need to have a solid answer of what this creator was trying to say. And if I don't get that, then this is the worst show ever or whatever. And that's not entirely, true, but.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the aspects that is divisive about the show. Like, those are the two main reasons. There's two main reasons why I hear people hate the show. One, what you just described, where, it's like, really? That's how it ends? This is the worst show ever. And then again, like we said before, is that some of the characters are annoying. Like, some people don't want to have, they're not anti-heroes, but they're kind of, they're not typical hero characters. They have real problems.
Yeah. I had John or David post up a link in the chat. Someone on Reddit made an image regarding like, oh, does Evangelion not make sense to you? Well, here's how I interpret it. And I've had to read this thing 5 or 6 times a couple months ago, and it feels like something I need to actually just take down and break down in segments and write notes on it, because like I'm reading it, and it's just like I have to go back and reread the same paragraph 4 or 5 times. Oh, we got a temporary error for some reason. Well, that didn't work. But it's pretty much this guy explaining like what they thought of like regarding where the angels came from, how that affects the earth. I got it on my touch actually, so I semi came prepared even though you can't see it.
The link didn't work?
No, it didn't work. Are you able to get the image and put it up on like your tiny URL or that image shack site that you got?
Yeah, but it might take a couple minutes.
All right. Hopefully that doesn't interfere with the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like I'm trying to think of through this. It's like second impact was caused by. Oh man, I have to read it.
Something hitting Antarctica, right?
Right, or they apparently found the expedition team by Katsuragi found something that apparently caused that reaction. I think
Yeah.
it's like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, they used the Lance of Longinus that was like embedded in Adam, who was dormant, to like insert some DNA into him, and he awoke and shit went down basically.
Yeah, or like so they removed the lance from him, which caused Adam to cause a second impact.
Yeah, it's like there's like a lot of kind of vague, weird, like they say like some of the dialogue that's in the show like makes it sound like it was all very deliberate, and then some of the dialogue is all like, you know, like oh, it was all an accident, and like it seems like some characters seem to know exactly what's going on at one point and not at another. So it's like, you know, what characters actually know what's going on, and under what circumstances do they know what's going on under? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Cool characters, interesting psychology, but
So,
the plot,
all right,
I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, there was a certain point where I'm like, I'm going to explain this show. We're gonna figure this show out and explain it. And you know what? I've been friends with people in this fandom for over 10 years, and the one kind of consensus I think that we have is that this show will never be explained without beyond the shadow of a doubt.
yeah.
Like there is like maybe one really new idea in like maybe like five years or more, you know, about something that was like kind of unexplained, and that was like Gendo's lost line from End of Eva. And this one user who goes by the screen name Shinseki, he did this really, really exhaustive theory kind of explaining why he thought Gendo said what he said. And I think he said, I think what he was saying Gendo said was, "I needed you." And he had like these very elaborate screenshot comparisons, because one of the things that you'll notice in the show is that things there's like parallelism in a lot of things. You'll see like the same thing over and over and over again. Like there's like a shot of Shinji standing at the windows of the hospital, and then like several episodes later, like Rei will be standing in the same exact position, and the lighting and the animation will be exactly the same. And you'll see the same like words appear here, same words appear there, and you can kind of sync them up. And he made this very elaborate thing, but like that was like the only like thing that we were like, oh yeah, that sounds like, you know, that might be the actual answer to this thing that has dogged us for years. But you know, you can't confirm that, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of hypothetical thinking behind it to prove your case, but there's no hard evidence to really back that up. And I got a good one for you, too. Who do you think killed Kaji? Who shot Kaji, man?
Well, that one was commented on by... I can't remember. I don't remember if it was Ano or Suramaki, but one of them did state fairly clearly that it was just basically a random third party. It was, you know, like maybe an agent. You know, it wasn't a principal character by any means. And I can't remember whether it was supposed to be Nerve or Sele, but you know, it could have been Nerve, it could have been Sele, it could have been the Japanese government, but it definitely was not Masato for sure. It was definitely
some people believe that too, but like the reaction that he gave was like, you know, a positive reaction, like, oh, the person I just responded to is someone I actually know, like, oh, hey, it's you, and then you just hear a gunshot. So it was somebody he knew, and I always thought it was either Gendo who did it. I mean, that was one theory there.
The
Go
manga
ahead.
does give you that indication because, like, they actually show like the gloved hand of the killer, and it's like a Gendo glove. But one thing that you have to stress about the Eva manga and the Eva anime is that one is one and the other is the other.
Yeah.
What is true for one is not necessarily true for the other because, Eva is a show that was not. It was meant to be a show originally, and you have two main people that were kind of responsible for creating the show. That was Ono and Sadamoto. One did the anime, one did the manga, and like those are their versions of the original story. Like, go back and look at the original plots for the show. The way the show ended versus the way it's outlined in the plot outline in the promotional package or whatever they did before they started production, it's totally different halfway through the show. They're like the plot totally different.
Okay.
There's even references to like places and things that don't even exist in the final version of the show.
So this is stuff that's not even really in the end of Evangelion movie either,
No,
right?
no. Like there's like a place called like Aruka or something like that they supposedly go, but clearly they don't.
Is all this stuff on Ava Geeks? I'm gonna have to look this up later.
Yeah, I think if you look up like on Ava Geeks like original plots or something.
John, don't do it. Your weekend's going to be shot, man.
I remember one time I was on there reading about, they had this elaborate theory about why Shinji saw Rei in the first episode. And
Oh, yeah.
This was some fan theory that was really well thought out.
Oh yeah, if you do a there's me. If you do a search for like Ava Geeks original episode plots, you'll I can actually Skype that over to you guys, and you can look at that
cool.
to your heart's content. And I even conveniently highlighted the episodes that look nothing like what they ended up being.
Oh, nice. Those director's cut episodes, you would think that they would be really different, but they're not. I doubt they come anywhere near to how different the original plots are,
Well, my understanding is that they're not really director's cuts so much as they are video versions. Like, so you know how like with 1.0 and 2.0 and perceivably 3.0 and final, like the video release is different than the theatrical release.
Yeah.
Because they improve things, they add things. There are added scenes, there's redone animation. When they released episodes 21 through 24 on home video, they were not the episodes that we had for quite a while. Those were the home video versions. Like what was showing on TV wasn't released on video until a little bit later. So there's like a difference between broadcast, like air broadcast, and video version. And just for those kind of 4 episodes, because they added a whole bunch of stuff into them to kind of connect better with End of Ava, which was out at the time. But the thing was that over here in the United States, we were releasing Ava on VHS or DVD or something, and we were releasing them after the Japanese releases. But at a certain point, we caught up and reverted back to broadcast masters to make our videotapes and DVDs, for ADV films to make those, and that's part of the reason why we got the original like TV versions of those episodes. Rather than the like redone, re-added, and so on and so forth versions, because those were made in like '98.
Yeah, like when I went to Tiffany Grant's panel at BonsaiCon, she mentioned that like when they were dubbing this, that like the show hasn't been released. The show wasn't released in Japan yet.
Oh no! They were like they were on that like and they were just like in the right place at the right time to get that really big show. And if I'm not mistaken, the only other long format thing that they had done was Blue Seed, which I don't think anybody remembers, which shows
Oh,
you, how important that show was. But,
yeah.
they had done some like OVAs and some short things, but they had not done like a long, important, intricate series at that point. But it's a
I
good
was
thing they
gonna.
got it because Sony apparently was in the bidding for that show.
Yeah,
And
I
they
was
were
about to say that.
yeah, they were going to call it like Angel Riders and
Yeah, it was
change.
like basically Monster of the Week crap, and then Matt's like, "No, you're gonna bastardize it. Don't do it. We're
Yeah,
taking this," and they did.
they would have either given it a Robotech treatment or they would have done something similar to what Fox did when they aired Escaflowne.
I've never seen the Escaflowne on TV like back in the '90s. I heard about it, but I never saw it.
Here's the gist of Escaflowne. At a certain point, they edited themselves into a hole where they like couldn't even air the show anymore because it was like they had to take out way too much stuff to fill a half-hour block, and it also didn't make any sense.
Well, didn't they only air it for like a couple months?
Yeah, because they edited themselves into a hole.
Yeah.
I would love to see like those edited episodes of Escaflowne like on the internet somewhere, just to see how bad they are.
I had heard that they were planning to do something like that with Detective Conan on there also, but they like decided not to because of Escaflowne being such a failure.
Yeah. I don't know. They could have added like a fake celebrity just for kids and did that. Just put on VHS. Because I am for Macross Clash of the Bionoids and Vengeance of a Space Pirate.
Oh man. Clash of the Bionoids.
Ah, good old Toho English dubbing. And that's nothing related to Ava. We posted up a link in the Skype chat, which I'll post this image in our podcast for people to read this. This is the image I got from Twitter, but again, this is like someone's interpretation of like the whole universe of Evangelion. And it's like regarding like, there was the angels, and apparently Lilith made Lilin, which became the humans. And then the humans wanted to do the human instrumentality project to preserve their breed or something. And then it kind of just talks about regarding like what happens before the series, and then it just kind of like talks about all the stuff during the series. And like I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing because that would just be boring. So I'll just post up the image on our podcast. But yeah, like this is something I'm like I'm reading the beginning, like towards the end, I'm like, okay, I kind of see that. Okay, that's up, that's okay. But the opening is just like, it just looks like everything contradicts itself. And that's what really got me confused on this image.
Well, I have to wonder where they got some of this. Is it mostly from like the PS2 game that revealed a lot of this stuff, or?
I guess so, because the
Yeah.
PS2 game is supposed to have like all the info or something.
Yeah, there's if this thing, I think I've seen this, but if it might have been a while. But if this refers to things like the first ancestral race, yeah, that there's some files in Evangelion 2 called the classified something.
Okay.
Classified files or something.
It's like I heard that like you play the game and you unlock classified files through it. Like I've got it on a burnt CD medium when I played it like 6-7 years ago, just to try it out. And of course, like I can't really understand it, but I played the game for like maybe an hour or so.
Yeah, it's called classified information, and among other things, that's one of the things that there you go, that we have translated on AvaGeeks that really helps fill in a lot of the details for the show. As far as like the first ancestral race that created the seeds, which are Adam and Lilith, and like really like all the really hard sci-fi elements of the show, that kind of get glazed over, because the angels are not angels. There is no God. There's no divinity. It's not a war between God and humans. It is just a science fiction show with some layers of mysticism laid over top of it.
Yeah, and I know earlier in this episode, this recording, you were saying like regarding the religious aspects into this, but like it's not totally focused on religion or to convert people to Christianity or anything like that. It's nowhere close to that. But they take elements from Anno took elements from the Bible and just kind of intertwined it with the series, and it kind of does tie in a few things regarding making some things make some sense, but some of it does feel like it's just kind of thrown in there at the same time.
Yeah, like one of the things I like to stress is that it's not that the religion has some sort of like specific message or truth to it, but it's not completely meaningless either. Yeah. Like if you look at the cross as an image that appears periodically throughout the show, angels explode into cross-shaped explosions. Does that mean anything? Not really. But when Sato has a cross necklace that she gets from her father after her father sacrifices himself so that she can live, that seems extremely deliberate to me as being symbolic.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of anti-Ava people always say, even the production team admits that there's no deep meaning behind the crosses exploding, on the angels. But, I don't think that's like a whole indictment of the show to say that it's meaningless like a lot of people claim. It's going a bit too far to say that,
Well, there's one particular person out there in the Ava fandom who you might be referring to, who says repeatedly that the religious aspects of the show mean absolutely nothing because the creator said so. But if my memory serves correctly, the creators said, and I believe it was Kazuya Tsunamaki said, that they chose Christianity because it's an exotic religion in Japan. And if they had known that it would be popular in the West, they would have gone with something different. That doesn't mean that it means nothing. It just means that they thought it was interesting or cool. But just because they thought that initially doesn't mean that, like, some of the symbols that are used in the show mean nothing. It just means, like, oh, that's interesting. I think I can do something with that. And they did. And, I took note. I come from a Catholic family and, I went to Catholic high school and, we had to, study stuff. And I was like, oh, this is way more interesting than anything I'm learning in Hebrew scriptures.
Yeah, why wasn't this in the Bible anywhere? Jesus fought an angel and then Lancelot just stabbed him in the cross. I don't know.
But as far as like the religious aspects, I don't get too wrapped up in them. I wouldn't want anybody to get too wrapped up in them because, at the end of the day, trying to research them, in detail isn't really going to help you appreciate or understand the show any better than you would with kind of a cursory, understanding of them. However, one thing that's actually interesting to look into is Kabbalah, because I think kind of like the core idea of Kabbalah is that you'll see repeatedly in the show the Sephirotic Tree of Life, and what the Sephirotic Tree of Life is basically a diagram of all the aspects of God, and they all have names, and the idea is that you start with one in the path, and you ruminate and you meditate and reflect on that aspect of God until you kind of reach a degree of mastery or full understanding of it and humility of it, and then you move on the other. And the idea is that once you fully understand all the aspects of God, that you become one with Him. And that's kind of like the whole idea of the show is, reuniting everybody together to reform God or reform a divinity. Because, Lilith is kind of the progenitor of mankind. Like, if there is a God in the show, it's Lilith. Because that's where all human life comes from. and the idea is to reunite with Lilith or reunite within through.
Okay.
So Kabbalah is an interesting religion to study. It's very vague and very abstract. It's very philosophical. It's not like dictated by like kind of like dogma of like from like a Bible or like a like central church or whatever. It's very abstract and very difficult to understand. Just like Ava. No surprise. Like there's like way more important stuff from Kabbalah in Ava than Christianity. Like Christianity is kind of like the window dressing, whereas the Kabbalah is like the soul of the show.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of like people, I guess, online who are like, like the Christians especially, like, oh yeah, I don't like Evangelion, or I would at least think this is their answer because they're like, it doesn't interpret Christianity very well. I'm like, well, they took a religion they don't really know about and try to intertwine the meanings behind it into a show, and you can't really, hate them for that, for trying to make something out of it, and it's not that bad.
Oh, yeah.
I think I tried explaining how cool Evangelion was to my youth pastor in high school, and he's just like, "Yeah, Dustin, that's great. What in the hell you just tell me?"
Yeah. It's like,
and I'm like, I shouldn't have opened my mouth.
Oh man, like that website Christian Anime Alliance, like they have a blanket. They have a blanket rule that you can't discuss Evangelion or Angel Sanctuary.
I got a notice, or I got like a pamphlet when I think I went to Animazement 07 or 08 because somebody in the area is on that website, and they're like, well, we'll promote the website, and I'm thinking, I'm Christian, I'll check this out. And so like I went on there, and they're like talking about another anime, but it's just like, yeah, I think I mentioned Evangelion, and they're like, we don't mention that anime around here, and it's just like, I'm out of here. Get you guys.
It's like they have it's kind of like a blasphemy rule. Like I can totally understand Angel Sanctuary, because Angel Sanctuary is just like those the characters in that show are literally supposed to be those characters. Like like that's actually God, that's actually a real angel, that's a real angel. There's like incest and stuff floating around. Like that's kind of a messed up story. But like Ava is like, it's just kind of like window dressing. But then again, like it's all fun and games until somebody makes fun of your religion. So
yeah, but I think I look at it this way too. Like at least the Japanese didn't pick like a Muslim religion, because we kind of see like if that gets misinterpreted or if they make fun of that, those people go crazy.
Yeah, Ano would be dead.
Yeah, I think Japan wouldn't be existing. 9/11 would have probably happened over there somewhere. I mean, that's a dark thing to say, but
there really is no Middle Eastern anything in anime aside from maybe like what was that one show, Basara.
There was some Muslims, I think, in Double Zeta where like they had scimitar mobile suits or something.
Oh yeah, there was an arc.
Yeah, Indy had to bring that up when we did our Gundam Double Zeta review, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that in that show.
It also has the Space Aztecs. It's got all kinds of cultures.
Oh yeah, Space Aztec Egyptians. Oh, why doesn't that show love more?
Oh, by the way, while we're on the topic of religion, have you guys talked about Nadia yet?
We haven't, but we've been kind of meaning to. It should be part of our Gainax month.
Yeah, because I don't think you can discuss Ava and religion without bringing up Nadia, and I won't kind of push you guys to talk about Nadia too much, but like the one thing I want to say while we're talking about religion and Ava, is that if Ava was not unique or new in this regard of using Judeo-Christian mythology as like a plot element, Nadia did it, and I think it did it much better. Like 3 or 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
So which specific parts of Nadia are you referring to?
All of it.
Wow.
It's like, well, I mean, first of all, very simply, the Tower of Babel.
Well, yeah, that's true.
For one thing, and some of the depictions of angels in the Bible are kind of consistent with like Ramiel in the angel with the big laser beam, the flying fortress, the one that's a big blue screaming thing of grain of sand or whatever, dodecahedron. Where do you see that before? You see that in Nadia. That's what the blue water is in Nadia. It's the focal point of a laser.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
The space laser thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they already did that.
Yeah, a lot of the themes in Ava can kind of be traced back to Nadia, or at least some of them can.
There's a bunch of other like little bits of Judeo-Christian stuff in Nadia, but it's just I can't remember them off the top of my head because I've only watched the show a couple times. But like when I watch it, like Adam shows up in like the whole Adam Katamon kind of thing shows up in Nadia, just like it is in Ava.
What was the meaning of the that ancient whale that they go and talk to, and it's like psychic and it dies? I have to wonder what the deep meaning of that could be. It like awakens Nadia's ability to talk to animals, and then they kind of like, I think they use that in the island arc, which is mostly pretty worthless, but
yeah, that was one of the 2 episodes in that arc that were actually worth watching. Like I think the other one was like Gargoyle's men were like mourning and having a funeral for Nemo.
Yeah, there was one scene with Gargoyle over like
the
12 episodes.
The islands, the Noahs, there's just tons of stuff in that show, like little bits here and there, and also like the sort of precursor races and stuff like that, like all those little elements. Like I can't stress enough. Like if you were interested in Ava and seeing where they got a lot of the ideas for the show, you have to watch Nadia.
I've got the first VHS tape of Nadia like on my shelf, but I haven't opened it or watched it yet.
Really good. That is a really, really good show. I mean, like at one point I was like, I'm going to do a Gainax panel. I'm going to do a panel of just all the different Gainax shows. Like, and I basically brushed up on the entire, like everything. Like, I didn't watch every show in its entirety because, oh my god, Abenobashi is not a good show. But Nadia was like the one that I was most pleased with brushing up on and watching, because that show, like for Ava fans, I think is definitely a requisite, because you'll see where they got a lot of their ideas from.
Yeah, I love anime and everything, but like the stuff I collect, like it'll sit on my shelf for a good while before I ever get around to watching it, because I'm just kind of lazy. But like I have a Nadia tape, so like if I watch that, and I'm probably going to really enjoy it, so then I'm like, I got to check out the rest of the show.
Nadia is very unique, I wouldn't put it into any genre the way you would put Ava into like a mecha genre. I guess you would call Nadia like fantasy, but I mean, there's no like formula that they do every week. There's not like a giant robot fight every week or anything like that. It's
not like an adventure sort of steampunk kind of thing.
Yeah, and it changes a lot. Like the Graton guys go from being like villains to like part of the cast of heroes, and it's a really good show. I think everyone who listens should go out and watch it.
True or false? Ayrton is the most useless character in that show.
They just brought him back because they needed something to do during those island episodes, I think.
It's like he just shows up. I'm like, oh my god, I remember hating that guy so much. Why did they bring him back?
Why was he even there to begin with,
I don't know. He should have stayed buried up to the head like he was.
The head man, or whatever Marie calls him.
Oh my god, that island arc, like, it's such a wasteland. There's like nothing, like, I feel bad watching it the second time through and actually watching those episodes again.
If I watched it again, I would just skip from like 20 to 35, or 22 to 35 or whatever the numbers are. Because there's the one episode in there where, like, I guess the blue water is explained like amidst a bunch of filler. And then
Yeah.
and then immediately it goes over to like Nadia betrays Jean and starts courting a African prince, and it's just like, why did you have to go back to this terrible filler kind of stuff? You know, it's.
But then once you get back to the actual plot, it's like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Oh yeah, those last 5 episodes or so are great.
So yeah, summary: watch Nadia. Nadia is good. When you get to the terrible episodes, just keep watching. Just stay the course.
What about
because once you get past episodes, the ending is like. Gainax is a bad habit of not being able to end shows very well, but I think Nadia has one of the most satisfying conclusions in this in their body of work.
What about the movie? Would you even recommend that people watch that at all?
I can sit through a lot of stuff, like, like I always read reviews from like movie critics, and I'm like, they talk about how it was so bad they got up and left, or it was so bad they had to turn it off. Like, and I had never done that. And I think the Nadia movie was one of the only movies that I ever actually did that. I was like, nope, I'm done. And then I gave
Wow.
the DVDs back to the friend that I borrowed them from.
Did you
It's
even
like,
make it?
I love the show, but then the movie was just like, there is no damn point to watching this movie. There is nothing in this movie at all.
Did you even get to the point where they stop with the 30-minute clip show?
I don't think so. I don't think I got to the actual plot. I just remember Nadia being like a journalist or something like that, and she was remembering all these adventures she had. And I'm like, why am I watching?
It's like so poorly edited. They don't show Gargoyle until about 20 minutes in to the 30-minute clip show, and it's just kind of a disaster. And then when it gets to being an actual plot, the actual plot is totally unnecessary. It doesn't like follow up on anything in the story of the show, and it's just like, here's a new villain that wants to take over the world, and it should not have been made. It was just made for the money, I guess.
Like Death, the death portion of Death and Rebirth, like that was a more enjoyable watch, and that didn't have any new plot in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are mostly say like Death and Rebirth is just like, it's just a summary of the series, and then that's about it. Like, the only thing I remember from that is, okay, it summarizes the series, and Shinji plays a cello the whole time, and then Asuka shows up and plays a violin, and then Rei shows up and plays like another instrument, and that's all I remember from Death and Rebirth. And it was like, bam, end of Eva.
You know,
Right.
one other thing I remembered from the Island episodes is that there's a whole episode just devoted to Marie singing songs about the characters.
Oh, and how weird is it that? Oh, spoilers!
Oh, totally.
Spoilers!
I had forgotten about that.
Oh, are we gonna talk? We gotta stop talking about Nadia, otherwise I'm gonna spoil the whole show.
I can just
Anyway,
put
back to Death and Rebirth.
I was going to put my mic on mute if you guys want to talk about Nadia, because that's just killing two birds with one stone.
You have to edit that out. You have to like bleep it out. Put like a ridiculous like springy noise in there. Like,
Oh,
like
I have
boing.
to do editing.
Yes, you have to edit that out.
All right. Since you
So,
requested it.
Anyway, so speaking of Death and Rebirth, there's 3 things I want to say about Death and Rebirth. First of all, the whole cello thing, like that never actually happened. That's not in continuity, because there's no way for Kaoru to meet Asuka, because she is totally sedated out of her mind by the point that he gets into the show's plot. So that's just like framework for the whole thing. Second thing I want to say is that the rebirth portion of Death and Rebirth that was released over here in the United States is not the real Rebirth. The real Rebirth has different animation, different music, different voiceover, different editing.
Mhm.
However, you will not be able to tell the difference unless you are a super nerd. Basically, what Manga Entertainment did was they copied and pasted the relevant portion of the movie, the final end of a movie, and called it Rebirth when they didn't actually provide North America the actual Rebirth. Probably because that would involve dubbing another movie. And the last thing I want to say about Rebirth or Death and Rebirth is you don't need to watch the Rebirth portion of Death and Rebirth. That's a given because it's not the real thing, and it's just basically rewatching the beginning of Endeavor. But some people think that Death and Rebirth is totally pointless, and I don't really agree with that. Like it's a good recap for the series. Like if hypothetically you wanted to watch End of Eva and you wanted to put yourself in the right frame of mind to appreciate End of Eva in its entirety, in its fullness, Death will get you to that point because it's not meant to synopsize the plot of the show. If you pay attention, it's broken up into different segments that highlight different characters and different elements of the show and its characters and themes. So when you watch Death and then you watch End of Eva, it's like they complement Death complements End of Eva.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen Death and Rebirth because I've just figured, a clip show and half of the movie I've already seen, why bother? But I guess maybe sometime I should, because if it actually adds something to appreciating End of Eva, it's probably worth seeing.
Yeah, like if you've never seen Death and Rebirth, you're not missing a whole lot. But like if you haven't seen, if you haven't seen the show in a couple years or something, or it's a good brush up on the series and its characters and themes. But like, if you don't have a copy of it, don't bother going on eBay because it's way too expensive. Because it's like both films like are way too expensive. But at least End of Eva is like worth it because it's a good film. But they're sadly out of print, and I've only watched the value of them go up. Fortunately, we have, the internet and torrents and stuff. And
I was gonna. Oh, go ahead.
But I mean, if it's not reasonably available, yeah, it's illegal. But I mean, think about it this way: the original purpose of copyright law was to protect and further. It was to protect creators and to further the advancement of the arts and useful sciences. The way the copyright is used today by most people is to enable companies to make money. At a certain point, in this region anyways, it's not available. So if you were to go on like some anime torrent site and download a copy of End of Eva, you're not hurting them in any way.
Yeah, because there's no one that's selling the new editions.
It's not like you're stealing. Yeah, there's no legitimate way of buying it.
Yeah, without paying $300 for a used copy.
It's a secondary market does not get any funds back to the original creators or the rights holders.
Yeah.
Unless you want to buy a Japanese release of it, but then you need a Japanese region player, and you don't have subtitles, and you have to be crazy person and author your own DVD with your own subtitles, and nobody really is going to do that because it's not reasonable.
Yeah.
Or get it from Taiwan, bootleg.
Yeah, done.
Which I know someone who did that, and he thought he was getting himself an actual release, and he got pissed off when the final line in End of Eva was cut out in the credits, and he's just like, "This is supposed to be a real release," and I'm like, "Where did you get it from?" Taiwan. It's a bootleg. No, I said it has a sticker that says anti-copyright law on it, and I'm like, it's a bootleg. And he went to have Spike Spencer sign it at NashiCon last year, and Spike was very reluctant to sign it. He's like, this is a bootleg copy. He's just like, I kind of realize it now. No, he tried to get his copy signed from Tiffany Grant at BonsaiCon, and she flat out refused it. Even though Spike signed it, she's like, well, Spike should have known better.
Oh yeah, she's said a few very strong things about piracy over the years, which I can kind of agree, kind of not agree with. There's a lot of motivation there from what happened with ADV Films, and a lot of people that work at ADV Films still have a lot of grudges against how was it Soljits, I think, backed out on them, their licensing partner, and then they lost all those licenses, and that kind of crippled the company. But
Was that whole thing regarding like Funimation wanted to sue ADV
I
because of
was
like?
no ADV Films is suing both Funimation and Gainax. They're suing Funimation over like loss of money for things and or no, I know. Here's what it is. They basically they're taking anti like monopoly suits against Funimation for basically creating an ecosystem where like Funimation would have control over everything, and then they are suing Gainax over failure to fulfill their parts of the agreement they had to create the live action Evangelion movie. So
Yeah.
So they
everybody's
think
still
that
wondering
About
if
that.
live action Evangelion film is ever going to be made. The fact that the people that were supposed to make it are suing the people that are giving them the rights, that's probably a good indication that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think if anybody was going to do it, it was probably going to be Hideaki Anno, and he just started up another animated version of it. So that's probably another good indication that it's never going to happen.
Yeah, this is kind of like the whole like why we won't ever get Macross Do You Remember Love actually licensed in America. And if like me that has the Clash of the Bionoid edition, that's the closest we've ever gotten, which I don't even know if that was legal. But yeah, the way I understand the lawsuit thing was like they had a third party publishing with this other regarding getting anime titles. Then of course ADV went defunct or just became Section 23. And then Funimation got this company or this third party company, the license stuff. And then like they're wanting to sue them because, you didn't fulfill your contract with that company. And that's the way I understood it. And then they're countersuing that because, F you Funimation.
It's a mess.
Yeah. I was going to mention real quick regarding the Evangelion, like regarding those DVDs. Like I got lucky with my End of Evangelion copy like 3-4 years ago. I got it at Blockbuster when they were selling it for like $2 because they don't know. Obviously, they don't know how much it was worth. And I mean, now that sucker's like $50 on eBay. But then I got the platinum. Yeah, I know, but I got the platinum 10 box that they sold like years ago, and I got mine used for $40 on eBay over 3 years ago, and that sucker's $250 easy on eBay. And I mean, it's got to go up in price now because I have Spike Spencer, Tiffany Grant's autograph on it. Yeah. Like they were that low at one point, and now it's pretty much licenses has lapsed or just about.
Well, actually, the that will actually probably devalue it, and actually like signing something of value will always decrease its value.
Oh, really?
Yeah, signing something of no value will increase its value, but it's like people want basically something that's in as close to its original. It's like a baseball card. You would never give Cal Ripken his rookie card to sign because that basically ruins it. Same logic, there. Especially like considering the fact there are some people that really just don't give a damn about the English voice actors.
Yeah, I'm sure if I wanted to sell it, like somebody out there would pay money for it. That just would think they would find value in that.
You did say you bought it at Blockbuster, right?
That was the End of Eva movie.
Oh, okay. I was going to say if it was a Blockbuster copy, I don't think you'd have to worry about decreasing its value anyways.
Yeah, it's like I had Tiffany Grant sign that one too, but it's just like even I was reluctant to have Spike Spencer sign it, which I didn't really have him because I'm just like it's not really it's a Blockbuster case, and he's only going to really sign the cover, which it's not really a Blockbuster cover, but I'm just kind of embarrassed that I have this. But Tiffany Grant was cool, so whatever. But yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, I'd still like to get all the autographs since I started something on that 10 box, so I might as well.
It's not like you're planning to sell it anyway, are you?
Yeah, that's true too. We had that long discussion with Viku about collecting things.
Yeah. And you came out of it still supporting collecting things. So
yeah, he's Mr. Cheap Ass and all. I mean, well, Josh, since you've been kind of quiet, what are your thoughts? Like, What are your thoughts on of Evangelion as a whole series? Like how much you like it and everything?
I mean, I saw it several years ago. Overall, I thought it was all right. Confusing at parts, yes. To say the least. I guess what stuck out in my mind the most, I don't think you guys mentioned it, but certain scenes, the cannibalism scene for one thing.
Oh,
That was pretty rad, actually.
The first time I saw that, I was very surprised.
Yes.
In the Misato and Kaji sex scene, also.
Yes. Oh, on the subject though, trivia fact here. You know what aired in Evangelion's time slot before it?
Teenage Mutant Ninja
Teenage
Turtles.
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
6:30 Wednesday night.
Yes. So we went from Ninja Turtles to Evangelion, and
That's
what
I've
a
read.
what a mood whiplash right there. But yeah, I felt Evangelion was a pretty good series. I mean, I personally kind of prefer like Gundam and stuff, but you know, it still has its place.
I was going to ask Aaron real quick. How did you first get into Evangelion?
Black Lion.
There was an ad for Evangelion?
On Black Lion. You have the VHS tape, don't you?
Yeah, I just haven't seen it.
Pop in your Black Lion VHS. It's that one where it has like the text that comes up and says like, if it comes from God, you cannot defeat them or something like that. And then it's like a 1 minute long montage of like all the Ava and Angel fights to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, the ad was like, I was like, cool, robots beating the shit out of each other. I gotta look that up. And it totally wasn't that at all, but some reason I just was like, I'm gonna just keep watching this show, and I did.
I like how Go Nagai was the reason why you're an Ava fan to this day.
Well, it's more like that wasn't the reason why I liked it, but that was the reason I got introduced to it.
Yeah.
Also, being an angry, depressed teenager will kind of help.
Yeah. That's why we all like the show so much, because we were all like Shinji at one point in some aspect. John, how did you get into Evangelion?
I think I watched it in about 2006, and well, we were going over the old chats yesterday, and people would always be posting spoilers for it, and I figured I should just watch it before I had it totally ruined for me, and so I did, and I'm glad I did, because it's one of my favorite anime. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I do like it a lot.
That's when you watched it on Adult Swim, right?
No, I think I watched it online, actually.
Okay. I think I've actually taped all the episodes off Adult Swim, like before I actually had the collection or anything like that. So I've got like that version of it, the TV version, which is almost about the same.
Yeah, there's a few edits, like the scene where Shinji falls on Rei in her apartment. It was edited out, I think, but mostly it's the same.
Oh, go ahead.
Go on. Other than that, it's the same as what I was saying.
I was gonna say, did you watch Evangelion when it was on Giant Robot Week on Toonami, like 2004? I've got that tape too, where it's like they censored Misato in the bathtub with a one-piece like swimsuit on.
Oh man, no, I haven't seen that actually. I've always heard about how they edited out Pin Pin and all that stuff, but no, I wish I had.
Yeah, Pin Pin was not in it.
Yeah.
If you want an idea of what it was like, the Anime News Network has like their the edit list or something like that. They have a column where they kind of detail how things are edited, and I believe they have that to contrast the Giant Robot airing with the Adult Swim airing. But it's not terribly surprising, because like Giant Robot Week was like 4 or 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and like Adult Swim was like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. That was...
I was going to say, I told you guys that like they aired an episode of Robotech that one time, and it was nothing but background music. There was no dialogue whatsoever. I wish I taped that.
I believe that was a technical error.
Yeah, but it was for the whole 30-minute show.
Yeah, I think they played it without, like, they just played with the music and effects track, and they didn't.
Yeah,
have the
that was
dialogue
it.
track.
I was like, "This is Robotech? What the hell?"
I remember one time they were airing Kenshin, and they went to commercial, and they came back, and it was Hamtaro.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. That's probably their biggest technical... I don't know.
That's hilarious.
The Robotech thing might beat it, but it's up there.
Some guy came in the booth. He's like, "Oh, it must be over." And he just like pops out the tape and sticks it in. And it's like, "Wait, it's 5:20. Oh crap!"
Oh wow.
But yeah, that edit list, I think it must have been at least like 90 edits or something crazy like that. I mean, they edit out all the crosses, all the pin, all the nudity, everything.
That's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the Escaflowne editing.
Yeah.
They would have had to, if they had like shown Ava during that time slot on a regular basis, they probably would have edited that show into a hole. They would have probably given up on it around episode like 19 or 20.
It would have been like Saban DBZ probably, where it just ends up being like less episodes than the original by like a third or so. But yeah, do we have anything more to say about Ava?
They got a Tumblr site, End of Ava Pizza or whatever it is, where they take images of Evangelion with pizza.
Oh,
that's something supposed to be really
that's
cool.
Daph's favorite site, yeah.
I've got one better for you. There's a Tumblr that is John Goodman with his face photoshopped on all of the characters.
Oh, show notes goodness.
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, before we go, I'm going to Skype this into the chat window, and you can all unmute microphones and have a good belly laugh or whatever at this.
Okay. John Goodman's face on animegirls.tumblr.com. Oh, God bless. It's like a Down syndrome gone to John Goodman and Asuka.
Oh, God. The page itself, there's like a ton of hentai pictures.
Oh, yeah, I see them.
Make sure you go back to the homepage and check the one from the Legend of Korra.
This is our podcast topic image right here. Oh,
I'm sorry. This is what you get when you have me as a guest.
No, I'm glad. Like, this is what you have when we have you on the podcast. We expect stuff like this. But
do you guys do an image for the like a thumbnail? Because you should do this one as the thumbnail
for the episode. I guess, like, I mean, there's some of those, like, I think you have it like through like a feed or whatever, like it'll have like an image of like what you have in the first couple of sentences.
You should do one of those Ava John Goodman ones.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna
hilarious.
Do this. Yeah, this is perfect. I couldn't ask for a better image. But yeah,
my work here is done.
Yeah, I knew this episode recording would go on for about 2 hours. Like, I knew it would. But I guess we can do final remarks, and then, or after this, well, there's probably going to be Gurren Lagann or Nadia talk, unless we just talked about Nadia, so we can count that. Kind of.
I've seen those shows. I could talk about those shows.
Yeah, I haven't seen them, but like you and John can you and David can hook up together and do an episode because I don't mind.
I have plenty to say about Gurren Lagann. So
have at it, you two. 3. All right.
I think Daft also wanted to talk about Gurren Lagann, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we don't know about that guy, but I think if he was on, he'd be like, yeah, it's a good show. You know, that girl is in a bikini, she's got big titties, and then there's robots. All right, I'm out. I'm going to go smoke pot. Later, losers. And that's Daft.
So I don't know if I have a closing remark.
I've got one. I got it. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was going to be the Love That Goku quote. Be the car. Be your own car.
Be your own.
Oh, love that Goku.
Everyone
mine
on
is
here has
going to
to
be
follow
that.
him.
I don't know when Evangelion 3.0 is going to come out over here, just that it's going to take forever, and no, I'm not going to watch the cam rip.
Yeah, I don't want to watch it either. Just like, yeah, Baka BT will get it in about
Yeah.
a year.
There is a cam rip of Eva 3.0 out there, and it is being subtitled, but it's a cam rip, which means it has terrible quality, and you shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very shaky at the end.
I can
of it.
wait. I can be patient.
Just another. There should be a Japanese release in another 7 months or so, hopefully, which will be fan subbed and will be much better quality. So just patience, my lovelies.